Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your midday market report for Friday, January 21st, 2022. A great card in sports as we get ready, obviously, for NFL weekend. And our guest today, I shouldn't even call him a guest. I'm going to start calling him our co host for the Mags to Riches Hour. And we're flying him all the way in from Chicago, technically, but in the studio every Friday at this hour from 2 to 2:45-ish Eastern time. And his Packers got a big ball game. So I kind of feel that the butterflies are already starting there. But he's got a good night to get himself ready for the weekend with his two great Big Ten games. Both smash our system. Both smash our system. Not that we're going to play them, but I can't wait to pick his brain on that. But we're super excited, as always, on Friday to head over to Chicago. We had Colton on Thursday, Riley on today. Let's welcome him into the ECSI studios, the one, the only, Mr. Riley Magnuson. Good afternoon, Riley. How are you?
Good, Jeff. Thank you for having me on once again. Guest, co-host, whatever you want to call me. I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, you mentioned it. Big day ahead tomorrow, my friend. I can't get over how excited I am. I'm excited to talk through some stuff today. Excited to talk through tonight's slate. You mentioned it, two Big Ten games. I haven't made a play on them yet. I was honestly excited to talk through them a little bit with you. I've got my opinions, but I saved them a little bit here for your show. But thanks for having me on. How are things going on your end?
Things are good. The Patriots are getting ready for OTAs and the draft and all that good stuff. So the local scene's quiet. Bruins with a nice win last night against the Capitals. Marshawn took a bad hit to the boards. I got the update. He's out. I don't know for how long.
Yeah,
The Celtics are just the Celtics at this point. Can't wait for pitches and catches so we can get to
there you go.
baseball and the
There you
Red
go.
Sox. I got to start. As you know, I like to say this tongue in cheek, but I have said all along it's the Packers by default to win the NFC. ECSI has pre flop tickets in August and September on the 49ers to win the NFC and the Super Bowl. We also purchased Packer tickets at 375 to win the Super Bowl. So
Okay.
so we're sitting in the catbird seat going into this game. Uh, I keep saying the banana in the tailpipe, and I'm going to keep saying it. I mean, because you got me 2 years ago
Yep.
in San Fran. You got me last year when a 43, 44-year-old quarterback comes in there and beats you as the number one seed. So you're the number one seed. You're the only team in the NFC that had a week off. You're getting healthier as we speak. The line opened up at 4.5. It shot to 6 because Jimmy wasn't going to play. He's banged up.
Right. Right.
It's leaking back. It's 5.5. It might hit 5. So tell us, we don't even have to dig into the market and the play yet, but just tell us the buzz, what's going on, how you're feeling, and just tell us basically in a nutshell why the Packers are going to win, I guess.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Jeff. So my personal thought, I feel fantastic about the money, not necessarily the money line, but for them to win. So obviously that would be the money line, but not saying I'm playing the money line. I feel pretty good about that spread. I do. I think the cold's going to matter, Jeff. I really do. And you mentioned the guys getting healthy. It's guys that are coming back healthy that I don't think there's going to be too much of a rust factor. It's in spots, on the offensive line or the defense. If it was wide receivers, running backs, that type of things, and the cohesiveness of the offense, I'd be a little concerned. But I just saw right before I popped on Zadarius Smith, pass rusher, former Pro Bowl pass rusher. He's been activated. Even if we get him for half of the game at 75% of his abilities, I feel fantastic about this. But really, I mean, Aaron Rodgers in the freezing cold temperatures has been fantastic. And I was actually surprised to see this, that Jimmy G has not only not played in 32-degree weather, of course he's never played in single-digit weather. I don't think he's played under 40-degree weather. So Whether you're kind of picking off that is your own opinion. I personally think that's going to matter, and I think he's going to be really, really bad in that cold. He's going to struggle, especially with the injury issues that he's already coming in with. We kind of saw it last year in this divisional round, with Jared Goff coming to town. Similar issues and not quite as cold either. So I personally think Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to have a lot of success in the passing game, throwing the ball. And honestly, just the buzz around the team, it just feels a little bit different right now. I'll be honest. Of course, you can call me a homer for that, but it just feels a little different. The way Randall Cobb, that is one receiver, obviously skill position that's coming back, but the long history of chemistry between him and Aaron Rodgers, I'm not concerned about that. But just you would maybe think pressure. I just heard him talking about it, how Aaron Rodgers almost left the team for the simple fact of getting Randall Cobb on the team this year. So the way they're talking, man, I at least this game, first of all, I feel fantastic about this game. I feel fantastic that they can get it done throughout the rest of the month, but I'm pretty through the roof about tomorrow night's game for them to win. And like I said, I feel pretty good about that 5.5, wherever it is as well, under a touchdown.
For years, I added an S, and then I'm going to add this year especially. I partake in high stakes fantasy as well.
Yeah.
It just boggles and blows my mind that Davante Adams lines up and it's 3rd and 8. Everyone in the stadium knows he's getting the ball. Right. Everyone. And he either catches it for a first down or he gets a PI. It's just, it's clockwork.
He's incredible.
So now I say, okay, you got me. All right, I'm in. I'm all in this week. I think the Packers are the play. And is this the week they double and triple, they blanket this guy, and someone else is, not that Randall Cobb can't beat him, not that Aaron Jones can't beat him, not that Dillon can't beat him. Is this where you get egg on the face, or he just can't be stopped?
I don't think he can be stopped. And one thing that every week I release the Packers blog, and I talked about it on our show a minute ago. I don't know that they will do that. They might have to, because the last couple of games that he's played, especially this early in the season, I'm not looking too much into that game as far as what's going to happen. But Davante Adams was unbelievable in that. I think it was week 3 that they played each other in San Francisco. Adams was fantastic. So maybe they do try to make someone else beat them. But the way Allen Lazard finished the season, the guy we haven't mentioned yet here today, Allen Lazard has looked fantastic. He has reached another level of connection with Aaron Rodgers that he just hasn't had over the last few years with anyone, let alone Allen Lazard. And so if you look at his game log, just the production increase, especially over the last 8 weeks, I think he's got 8 touchdowns over his last 11 games. They've just reached another connection level. The last 6 quarters, it's 147 yards, 11 catches, and 3 touchdowns. So no Marquez Valdez-Scantling in this game obviously hurts them, because he's actually fared well against the Niners as well. But I actually expect Allen Lazard, if what you're talking about, if they're trying to take away Davante Adams and force someone else to beat them, I've got a lot of faith that Allen Lazard could pick up that slack if that is the case. Otherwise, like you said, there ain't nobody stopping them if they aren't doing that, though.
Last week, the Niners, the public trendy dog, go into Dallas, get the opening kickoff, and just march right down the field, take a 7-0 lead. We know they're a physical team. Dallas, I'm not playing Monday morning quarterback, but you slap them in the mouth. They're a bunch of divas. Whatever you want to call it. Right. They just don't like the smash mouth. Now you got the frozen tundra. Where you can play some smash mouth. And I think if the Niners came down and scored opening drive, Rodgers would be right there ready to match him. Mm-hmm. On the same token, if Rodgers and company get out 7-0, 10-0, and the Niners are playing from behind. Now, listen, 2 weeks ago, they were down 17-0 at the Rams, and they came all the way back. Debo, it's just been a man possessed, receiving, running. They're going to run the ball 25, 30 times. Listen, if you have to make Jimmy G beat you, you're sitting in the catbird seat. But if they're getting 5 and 6 yards a carry, and then you start moving in, then you're going to get beat up top by Kittle, Ayuk, and Debo.
Right.
What's the buzz going on down there, or your feelings in regards to I know Jimmy G doesn't put the fear in God in you, but does their offense and their physicality on defense at all put the fear in God in you?
Offensively, a little bit as far as their run game, especially the way the Packers defense finished the season. It is a little concerning offensively. As far as their defense, I really don't think the Packers offense is going to struggle. I guess I'll stick with the Niners offense against the Packers defense first. Because like you said, if the Niners go down and, right down and score, even if it's running the ball and keeping them on the sidelines, I feel pretty good that Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to exploit this secondary or even their run game. I know maybe on paper that doesn't look like the best matchup, but a guy in A.J. Dillon is a guy that I am pretty damn happy to have on our team in 8-degree weather. He's a guy I mentioned on our show this morning, not the same type of breakaway speed that Derrick Henry has, but as far as that bowling ball tractor that you don't want to tackle, especially in freezing temperatures, he's that guy. And so I think the Packers, if they have to, can bring physicality back to them on their offensive side of the ball. But with these guys that they're getting back on defense, it's making me feel a lot more optimistic about their defensive success, the Packers. I mentioned Zadarius Smith. It sounds like Whitney Merciless could also be a guy that's coming back. Kenny Clark is going to have to be the player of the game on defense, for them to win by a touchdown or more, honestly, because down the stretch when the run game was starting to struggle, he missed a couple games there. That one against the Ravens, they ran all over us with their backup quarterback, Tyler Huntley. The middle was wide open because Kenny Clark was gone. He's going to be fine. He's going to be healthy. I expect him to have a really nice game. If he doesn't, that's really concerning for me as far as the run defense. But then, like you said, especially in the cold temperatures, it can't just be that one-dimensional rushing attack. It's going to have to be rushing, and if they have them, kind of on their toes with the run, they're going to have to hit those passes. And not only am I not really concerned, especially the way Jimmy G finished that game, now you sprinkle in the 8-degree factor of it all. I like you said, he doesn't really put the fear of God in me at all, even if they are able to exploit us on the run, like you were saying there.
I've compared this spot for Rodgers to Elway in this regards. Elway got to the bowl real early in his career and didn't get back till those last two where he won and, kind of got on his white horse and he moseyed on into the sunset. Now Rodgers, talked about maybe not playing this year. He's talked a lot of crazy stuff. There is talks of him, moving on next year. A Super Bowl win, I think the trump card's even more in his hands. Does he go to management and say, okay, I just won you a Super Bowl. I'm in the twilight of my career. You see, I still have 2, 3, 4 years left. Go trade Jordan Love like Tom Brady did to Jimmy G and rip up my contract. We'll do a 3-4 year deal and we'll go from there. Does that sound crazy?
I don't think so. I mean, you already mentioned him. He was on your show yesterday. He thinks it's crazy. My partner Colt, him being the Bears fan that wants to see the boogeyman out of the NFC North. But the way they're talking throughout the season, Jeff, I don't think it's crazy at all. The way, because he's literally mentioned the front office people that he had previously mentioned issues with, talking about how great or maybe not how great, but how solid their conversations have been over the last handful of months. And so, yeah, I really do feel like unless because I don't think he's going to be able to find too much of a solidified better situation where he's going to be able to win a championship beyond this. I've already heard talks because Devontae Adams, whether they franchise him or pay him is obviously a big question. And if he's not, I think they're both back or neither of them are back, honestly. And the way that even in small sample sizes and not a ton of prep time, though the eye test of what we've seen from Jordan Love, I'm not closing the book on him necessarily altogether, but it obviously hasn't been fantastic this year, the couple of times we've seen him. So I can't imagine that's putting too much optimism for next year, because if they can bring a lot of guys back, then they're probably going to feel like they can win another or compete for another championship at least. So I think they got to throw the kitchen sink to try and bring him back. And the way that he's been talking, the way he's talking about how much he enjoys being there, the fans, I don't think he'd be saying too much of that if he was still planning on leaving as soon as the season ends here this year.
All right. Before we jump into the hoops in the Big Ten tonight, how are you playing the game? Are you not playing the game? Final score? Any props there? Anything you're looking in, or you just listen, the Packers are on, I'm just watching and rooting for the win?
Yeah, so I do find a lot of value. I mentioned Al Nazard, and I'm putting it in my blog that's coming out tomorrow. I think there's a ton of value on his props so far that have come out. 38.5 receiving yards, 40.5. I've seen in a couple of spots. Again, if you look at him on paper, you look at his entire season game long in the last couple of years on paper, you might expect some regression based on how he finished the season. But kind of how I mentioned that connection, and not only that, but no MVS, that connection that he's developed with Aaron Rodgers, and he's about plus 160, 175 to score a touchdown. I've got both of those on my blog. I've got both of those locked in. I think that's unbelievable value. Like I said, 8 touchdowns in his last 8 games. I think they're just overlooking the fact that he's still kind of an under the radar name and haven't really realized just the type of production that he's been putting up. So I am kind of standing on the mountain screaming about Allen Lazard for tomorrow night. But beyond that, probably a small wager on the Packers spread, because like you said, I've got enough emotional capital invested in this game. I don't need to be worried about if we're winning by 3 or 6 or 10, whatever it is. I'm not really interested in laying minus 240 on the money line either. So for the most part, I'll be sticking with some Allen Lazard stuff tomorrow night.
What we like to say here at ECSI most of the time, obviously it doesn't matter if you win or lose, it's if you cover, but in your sake, just win, baby. Just
win, baby.
All right. Before I'm going to actually, you know what? I'm going to go backwards here. Anything grabbing your eyes in the NBA tonight?
I've got one thing in the NBA tonight, actually. Unfortunately, I haven't really kept too close tabs on it. Gun to my head, I think they could get it done again. I'm not coming to you for the third straight time with the Friday night 76ers. Got them the last 2 weeks on Friday, the Sixers, but gun to my head, like I said, I think they should take care of business tonight again, but I think that line is pretty spot on tonight, 8.5 at home against the Clippers. So I'm staying away from that one. The one that I have targeted and have locked in is actually the Atlanta Hawks, minus 1.5 at home, Jeff. I personally, there's a few reasons that I like. First of all, for the Heat, no Kyle Lowry tonight, no Tyler Hero, so a little bit of a depth, the lack of depth tonight. But beyond that, I actually, despite what they've done throughout the entire season, the Atlanta Hawks, I've been watching them this past week. It does appear to me that, they're getting healthier, and for that reason, I personally think they're turning a little bit of a corner here. They've got DeAndre Hunter back in the lineup the last few games, which has translated. I think people are kind of underlooking how big of an impact he makes on both sides of the floor, defensively and offensively, just as an efficiency guy, because he is a really solid two-way player, plays defense well, hits the three. And so I think they've got a lot of value tonight. The one thing, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, the total is a little bit lower than the Atlanta Hawks games typically go to. But it kind of seems to me that it's kind of meeting in the middle with the Heat being more of a typically defensive team, having lower totals. And the Hawks have had some high totals recently, and have gone over. So that would be my main concern. But I actually it wouldn't surprise me if the Heat had some struggles this tonight offensively. So as far as the only thing that I've locked in for the entire day, it is the Atlanta Hawks minus 1.5 at home right now.
Yeah, the market there, it's kind of an interesting game. The Atlanta opened up at minus 105. 62% of the tickets, 88% of the money is coming in on the Hawks home court Friday night. It has moved to 1.5 there. And on your under over, this is really intriguing. 72% of the tickets are on the under, yet 88% of the money is coming in on the over. A number that opened at 217.5 is now 219 at our friends at Circa and 219 and a hook at Westgate and South Point.
Yeah, that one's it. I'm staying away from that. My feel for NBA totals, I'll be honest, that's not one of my specialties by any means. I think I think the Hawks could drive that one over. But again, I really like their offense right now. I think Miami, with a little bit of lack of depth going on the road in this one, I think this is. I think we're going to start seeing. I don't know that they'll get back to what they were last year, the Atlanta Hawks, but I think they're going to start winning some games at a nice clip and get back to that Eastern Conference playoff picture. I mean, you just look at the straight up numbers or straight up records: 29-16 for the Heat as an underdog against a 19-25 straight up Hawks team. Seems like a bit of a setup for the Heat. I'm not sure if that's what's going to happen tonight or not, but I think they're going to start winning some games, and I think it started a couple nights ago, and it's going to continue on here tonight at home.
Well, now we're going to your home court, Big Ten. Friday nights. I love Friday nights boards. You get a lot of the small schools, and then of course we get our token 2 games, marquee games in the
Yep.
Big Ten. As I says, both games smash our systems, our eye test, everything about it. And I'm going to tell you right now, one smells to holy heaven, and
Yep.
second one, Maryland is our kryptonite. Okay,
Yep.
they are our kryptonite, and I'll say this till I go to the grave. When I play Maryland, I get crushed. When I
Yep.
go against them, they're the Final Four Maryland Terps with Gary Wood. Okay.
Right.
Uh, I remember talking to you one of the first times, and then it was a Sunday night. I think it was, yeah, Sunday night. Wisconsin was at Maryland, and actually we
Yep.
were going
Yep.
back and forth on the timeline, and that was our last game to close out a 3-team action parlay for like 6-1, and I want to say Wisconsin was up 22-4 or some stupid thing like
Yeah, oh
that.
yeah, the beginning of the game was like something along those lines. Yeah.
And they cut into it before the half, and next thing you know, Maryland's up 4, Maryland's up 6 in the second half, and in the last 5 minutes, what they always do is they just rip our hearts out, and Wisconsin goes on to win. So I'm going to bring up the first game, 7 p.m. tip-off, 875, 876 on the rotation, Illinois at Maryland, a game that opened up at 7.5 Illinois. Okay, 56% of the bets, 74% of the money, all coming in on the Orange Crush, the Fighting Illini. The line is dropped to 4.5. Huge, 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 huge sharp reverse line movement, whatever you want to say on the home dog Terps. Take it away.
Yeah, so a big reason for that drop, Kofi Coburn, Illinois' big man, out for concussion protocol, didn't travel to Maryland. And if you remember, he was out the first 3 games for Illinois. First 2 games, cupcake games, they smoked some bad mid-major teams, and then they lost outright to Marquette. So I don't know. Like you said, I think it's, do you trust Maryland enough in this spot? Because gun to my head, I mean, I'm a little bit biased. I'm not a diehard Illinois fan, but I am an Illinois basketball fan. But without Kofi Coburn, man, I think they could have some issues. They've been a little helter-skelter whenever he isn't out there. You saw the game against Purdue the other day, going to double overtime without Kofi Coburn. Wheels fall off in double overtime without him. And again, in Illinois, we can't legally bet on Illinois colleges. If I was going anywhere, I would probably go to the Terps plus the 4.5. The first time these 2 teams played, I think Illinois ended up winning by 12. But if you watch the first 30 minutes of that game, it was a little bit of a different story there. So again, much like you, I haven't backed him too many times or bet against him too many times, but I've been paying attention to him. Maryland has been that goofy team, so it's really whether or not you trust him. And if I was putting anything down, it would be on Maryland, but I'd still be a little tentative. They can be weird at times. Illinois could have a good shooting night, but without Kofi Coburn, I think they're in some trouble on the road here.
Well, you talked about that Marquette team, a Marquette team that went into Villanova, 14-point underdogs, and won outright. The first loss Nova has had in that building since 2018. It looks like the return of Shaka. So any loss to Marquette right now is a good loss.
Right. That's totally fair. I can't dispute that at all. I think they might be back, Jeff. I don't know. I don't know if they're playing tomorrow or not. I guess I didn't check them out. But they were a goofy team for a minute there. But I think you're right. I think they're all the way back, Marquette.
All right. 9 p.m. tip-off. Rotation number 891, 892. Michigan State at Wisconsin. Wow. Wisconsin opens up 4.5, now down to a flat 3. Izzo's Armies attracting all the play, 64% of the bets, 78% of the money, all coming in on the Spartans. An under over that opened at 140 is now down to 139, with 59% of the bets on the under, 63% of the money on the under. So the number in tickets is moving in the right direction. So we got a 1.5 drop there. Again, the line's moving in the right direction. Izzo as a dog, I mean, the public just flops and runs to the window. Wisconsin, another team where again, you ride with them and then they just poop themselves, and then you go against them and they miss. So, what's your temperature here?
I've been torn on this all damn morning, Jeff. I will be totally honest with you. I keep getting on the precipice of being interested in Michigan State, and then I see two things in my head. Everything that you're talking about with Wisconsin, just when you think they're in a letdown spot, they take care of business. Their home court is not one that I enjoy betting against. Their home court advantage is one of my favorites in the entire country. And lastly, the thing that really keeps me away from Michigan State is they are 5-1 straight up in the Big Ten, right? All 6 of those games are the bottom of the barrel of the Big Ten. Split with Northwestern, beat Minnesota twice, I think, and beat Penn State and Nebraska. So they have played the easiest possible schedule that they can play in the Big Ten, and I think they're good. But they really, I mean, you look back, they haven't played anybody since November. I think they took down your UConn Huskies in a solid game. Get smoked by Baylor and Kansas in the first month, and I have no interest in trying to compare a November schedule to conference play. So the fact that they haven't played anybody has me really concerned, and I was just, like I said, I was starting to be interested in Michigan State, but now that they're kind of looking like a public dog, so to speak here, it's gotten me starting to be interested in the Badgers, but I'm starting to lean towards, just unless we see something glaring here in the next couple of hours, I'm starting to be more on the side of just enjoying this one as a fan and having some entertainment, because like you said, this Wisconsin team, you and I talked about them. We didn't bet on them, but we thought they were going to have a letdown spot against Northwestern too, and they took care of business on the road there. So, gun to my head, I'm taking the Badgers, but I don't like it enough to put my money down on it quite yet.
Anything on the college board today catch your eye?
Not so much. Today, outside of the 2 games that we just talked about, this is all my partner Colton Soroka's realm of college basketball as far as mid-major games. I know he's got a lot of stuff that he likes, but beyond those, not really. No, it is those 2 that I have interest in, and I don't really have much to drop down on you as far as anything else there.
What's the Big Ten look like this weekend? Are there any marquee games on Saturday or Sunday that you can give us some analysis, some early leans, or anything that you're eyeing?
Not a big game, but Rutgers and Minnesota tomorrow. Another one that, depending on what your temperature on either team is, it's in Minnesota. So you're either, Rutgers has been really bad on the road, and I personally bet on Iowa at Rutgers the other night, and 48-46 game. I think they kind of just benefited from Iowa not being having their worst possible shooting night that they've had in the entire season. And so it would have me interested in Minnesota at home. But like you and I talked about, this Minnesota team is probably the biggest fraud team in the Big Ten. And since I think you and I said that, they've lost their next 4 games in the Big Ten, albeit against some of the best 4 teams in the conference: Illinois, Indiana, Michigan State, and Iowa. But gun to my head, without seeing a line, I'd be interested in the Gophers at home, but I don't know if I have enough trust in them. I don't know if I want to bet against Rutgers. They have a stinker. I think I told you they had that stretch: Nebraska, Penn State, and Maryland. Don't be surprised if they lose 2 out of 3. Only lost 1 bad loss against Penn State, or a 17-point loss, and kind of played around with Maryland a little bit. But I think they could lose this one outright on the road at Minnesota. What are your thoughts on that one?
Minnesota again, frauds. Absolutely, they're not the same as like Nebraska. Nebraska will start a year 11-0, 11-1, and then they get into conference play and they're nowhere to be found. And they usually get thrown into 1 or 2 of those Sunday night special games where you're almost intrigued and you're like, all right, this is where they're going to turn it around. Nowhere to be found. Minnesota, another one of those teams where again, I ride them and nowhere to be found. And then you ride against them and they just happen to have one of those shooting nights where they can't miss.
Yeah, so I'd be really, that one, depending on what the spread is, I really don't know I don't know what to expect out of that one. The next one tomorrow, Nebraska, Ohio State. You just said something about Nebraska. I don't think I've bet on or against Nebraska since mid-December. I don't care if it's 7.5 or 15, honestly. I have been staying so far away from Nebraska because they either show up and play a scrappy game and keep it single digits, or they lose by about 30. And I don't think that's an overstatement on that one. So like I said, 7-point spread, 15-point spread. I really don't have any interest in that one. I haven't gotten too much of a read. I guess I have, but haven't been able to watch them too closely. Penn State, I think Iowa probably bounces back at home. Depending on that spread, though, Penn State's been scrappy and keeping games close. I think they've covered 5 straight games in the Big Ten against a few solid opponents, beat Indiana outright. So either Iowa bounces back and blasts that game total over and covers, or they come out again and they have a rough night shooting and a little hangover from that game against Rutgers. I'm not sure about that one yet.
Give us the temperature, the feel, where you stand on Purdue right now.
It's pretty mixed. I will be honest. I think they're really good. I don't think they deserve to be in that top 4 or 5 category. But at the same time, I think there's a few teams in the Big Ten that are, I don't like to necessarily pick off of AP rankings because I have my own opinions about this team's overranked, underranked. But I think there's a lot of teams in the Big Ten that are really underranked in the grand scheme of the AP poll in the country. I mean, Indiana is a really solid team. Illinois, as long as they can keep Kofi Cockburn out of foul trouble, I'd put them up against anybody in the Big Ten, if not in the country, honestly. So I really like Purdue. I think they just had a tough matchup last night against Indiana, honestly. I took the under in that one, was interested in Indiana, but was expecting it to be a fantastic game like we ended up seeing. Indiana's got a solid rotation of guys that they can match up with those huge big guys. So I think that's really what it comes down to is, if you're matching up against Purdue, do you have more than 1 or 2 guys above 6'10"? And then if you do have that, do you have guys that can defend the 3? Because that's the other thing they rely on. And if you can do that and check those boxes, then you've got not only a great chance of covering against Purdue, but beating them outright. So I don't see them as the juggernaut that they were kind of looking like for the first couple of seasons. I do think they're very good, maybe closer to a top 10 team as opposed to a top 5 team is kind of my opinion.
It's comical because you talked about Indiana. We're talking about the game last night, and I get Indiana plus 3.5 on the desk. Yeah. Okay, on the desk, because again, I don't want to say we're a sucker for home dogs, but when you read the market the way that we do, and you obviously understand as well, is a lot of the higher ranked teams, the big name teams, are just public. They just get sucked up by the public. Right. And yesterday was a perfect example. I didn't dive in. I dove into one game, got huge egg on my face. We have about 6 times a year what we call is a step on the gas game, where instead of 1 unit, we step up and we go to 1.5 units. And as I talked to Colton yesterday, Memphis -6 against SMU. SMU, who was 12-3 and absolutely rolling, and it was like a 70-65 split. I mean, everything. Bells were ringing, and let me just say, at the start of the game, the only bells ringing was in my head because it was 14-2 to start, and again, those slow starts are just killers. Long story short, they cut it to 7 at half. Like, well, okay, I'm doing the math. Okay, I need actually it was 9 at half. So I needed them to outscore them by 16 to cover the game. Right. Well, 7 minutes to go. It's 40-38. And I'm like, all right, 11 minutes. I'm like, here we go. 40-38. Here we go. Next flash, 51-40. The old 9-2 run. Thanks for playing. Yeah. And then listen, if I assume you've seen it. Anyone watching and listening this show, if you didn't listen to Penny Hardaway and that press conference, please just take the 2 minutes to go and find it. It is the biggest disgrace I've ever heard in my life. Here's a professional NBA player that gets his dream job to come back to Memphis, where he played college, to coach, and now is screaming, taking heads off at a presser because he thinks that they're asking him crazy questions. Do you know how hard I work? Do you know I start 4 freshmen? Well, there was a coach there, Penny, well before you called Coach Cal, who's now at Kentucky, that basically that's all he plays is freshmen. Right. Okay. So,
and sorry to cut in, but at that same type of talent level as well, it's not any real difference there either.
100%. And so obviously, Penny, the kitchen's getting a little too hot. Okay, you're lucky I wasn't the AD right there, because I would say we made a mistake. Here's your papers, and then we'll just use the assistant as the intern there. But it was just disgusting. Infallible. How's that sound? Disgusting.
Infallible. Well, so I 100% agree with you, and because he's been a fantastic recruiter, but just a total this year and last year massive disappointment. I saw a poll on Twitter: who's been the bigger disappointment this year, Memphis or Michigan? We've talked about them a couple times. I would say Michigan, without a doubt. God, they're the one team that I don't feel like they don't seem like they're in a spot where they could recover from this mess that they're in. Whereas maybe you feel the same about Michigan. I'd give them a better chance to at least scrap together and figure their shit out and get back on the right track without any of these without that same type of outside noise. I don't think Hardaway's a good coach. I think you're right. I think it's time for him to get the hell out of here, because if he can't do it with that recruitment of talent that he's bringing in, I don't know how he's going to do it in the future beyond this year.
I got sidetracked. I'm going to go back to it. So Purdue, Indiana plus 3.5 on the desk. Okay. Anyone that didn't watch the game that doesn't understand this is what college hoops is all about. They're down 2. Less than 30 seconds to go, maybe even 20 seconds to go. So thought process is at least tie this ball game up, guys, because if you miss, you're going to foul. So what happens? That 2 then goes to 4. So when you're running hot, what happened last night if you had Indiana? That's why you're running hot, okay?
Right.
They didn't go for the 2. They went for the 3 and hit. Now they're up 1. Purdue comes down, misses, and then Indiana a couple free throws. But that's the spot. You get these dogs to that spot. The finish line is in sight. If you miss the shot, you're not going to cover that game.
Right. Right. And I mean, it was a little bit of a different scenario as far as it was Colton's pick, and I backed him Alabama LSU the other night. I think, what was it? Alabama was up by 4 or 5, and all it took was 1 rebound. I think they were up by 3, actually. All it took was 1 rebound, a quick foul, and they're probably up by 5. Instead, they don't get the rebound, and then LSU runs out the clock. So, yeah, it's those types of swings, man. And that was kind of why I kind of envisioned that game being in that situation, a kind of a coin flip. That's essentially why I stayed away from it last night, the Purdue Indiana game. I wanted Indiana, but I didn't have the cojones, so to speak, to back the Hoosiers. But I wish I did. That 9-game win streak was honestly staring me in the face and had me concerned as far as Purdue having 9 straight wins over them. I knew that place was going to be rocking. That was probably the best atmosphere that I've seen all season long in college basketball last night in Indiana. I don't know about you.
It was great. And then to see the coach it was priceless. I mean, they stormed the center court, the fans, the kids were going crazy, but to catch the coach walking out, pointing to the crowd, I mean, that's what it's all about. And that's what just infuriates me more, is when you get a Penny Hardaway crying because people are doing their job and he's trying to blame everyone else but himself. And then to take a snapshot of the Indiana head coach walking off. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I think I was a little unsure of what to expect when he came in, Woodson, but I think he's, especially after that statement win with that crowd, I think he could have them back in a really nice spot, not only this year, because I think they're a really solid team, but going forward, I think they're going to start getting some recruits back in that spot and be maybe not the full pinnacle of what Indiana Hoosiers used to be back in the day, but I think they could at least get back into that top 25 consistently category year in and year out that they've been lacking with those Tom Crean years and the old Miller years there for a couple of years. Because I know I've got a few friends that are Indiana fans, and it's a passionate fan base. So I personally grew up not a huge fan of Indiana, but it's a fantastic state of basketball, and they deserve it for sure.
I was just going to piggyback off of that. What happened? I know the Crean years. I get all that part of it. But then you supposedly steal the next up-and-coming stud with Archie Miller. And it just never happened. Never. I mean, Sean for years did well at Arizona. And for years I was wondering why he wasn't fired, because of what the shenanigans he was pulling behind the scenes. That's for another show. But can you pinpoint what the hell happened with Archie Miller there?
I really don't. It was always a situation of a guy that wasn't a terrible recruiter in my eyes, but one that really just he kind of saw the ranking next to a guy and brought him in. It was more concerned about bringing talent in and more or less concerned about bringing together talent that actually work together, and that I think is going to change here. Like I said, they had a perfect matchup last night. Have a lot of guys that have like 3 or 4, 6'9", 6'10" guys that are effective. So I think the biggest issue, and for Crean himself too, for a couple of after his first couple of years, it was really just getting a right collection of talent that worked well together, as opposed to just stockpiling any amount of talent and hoping they work together after that and trying to figure it out. But yeah, I think they're in a good spot and going forward here.
It's Fridays. Your 2 o'clock hour back east will be your 2 o'clock hour till your agent calls us and said that Fox or ESPN has taken you away. I truly am coining this the Mags to Riches hour.
I love it.
And to bring yourself in such a exciting next couple of weeks for you, because again, Packers win, then you go to the championship game, and then we'll have a 2-week break, and then you'll be back in that Super Bowl. I hate to bring you back next Friday, and we're talking about Rams and San Fran, and and what the hell, and then you're going to have a whole off season. Is Rodgers staying or going? But
Don't even. Yeah, you might not see me. Might not see or hear from me after tomorrow night if things go south for me. I don't know what I'm gonna, especially next round. Oh gosh, I'm not even. That thought hasn't even crept into my head. But yeah, that is one thing as far as like actually, because last year it kind of blindsided me. Maybe that was foolish of me to be blindsided by it, but I'm at least like taking stock of enjoying Aaron Rodgers while I still have him, and at least kind of entertaining. Like, okay, maybe this is the last times that we're seeing him. Because last year, that was part of my anger, was like, well, I didn't realize this was coming like this. At least give me one more year, and now this is that one more year. So I'm at least at worst, I'm preparing for the worst, so to speak, I guess is what you would say.
I've had the crawler up, our Mags, TTL Sports at Talking the Line. Tell the viewers, the fans, where they can find you, Colton, all you guys' amazing work, podcasts, platforms, you name it, the stage is yours.
Alrighty, so you see it scrolling down there. RMAX TTL Sports is my Twitter. If you're looking for my partner, it's Colt TTL Sports. He will have his UFC 270, huge UFC 270 card coming out. He's a big UFC guy. He'll have that blog coming out tomorrow. At Talking the Line there on Twitter, if you're looking for it, you see that there, as well as my Packers blog that I'll be coming out with tomorrow morning afternoon. Again, at RMAX TTL Sports or Talking the Line. You can follow us on Instagram, talking_the_line. You can find us on YouTube, Talking the Line Sports Media, or just head over to our website, talkingtheline.com. You can catch us tomorrow morning breaking down the entire college basketball slate. Cup of Joe on campus, 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. And Wise Words Wednesdays, noon Central Standard Time every Wednesday. New interview with a new big, bright mind in the world of sports gambling. This past week was Hakeem Prophet of Wager Talk. We'll have another guest this upcoming week. A little bit of a different angle this upcoming week. Still sports betting, but a different angle of sports betting. So we're really excited to talk to this next guest coming on Wednesday for Season 2, Episode 8. But yeah, follow if you need everything, talkingtheline.com, or go to our Twitter, get our link tree. Everything will be right there. You can get us on Spotify, iTunes, everywhere you need us. We are there for you, right where you need it.
Shout out to your partner, Colton, that just dove into the messages. My man, Colton. Big night for you. You got the mid-majors. He is known as the mid-major king. You can catch him on East Coast Sports Midday Market Report on Thursdays from 2 to 3 Eastern. And then Friday, we follow it up with his partner here, Riley. And we talk some Packer football. We talk some Big Ten. We talk some NBA. Gives out Atlanta tonight, right? -1.5.
Correct.
And your prop, was there a prop bet I'm missing?
For the Packers game, you can catch it again on my Packers blog tomorrow, and I'll have more beyond this. But I'm loving Allen Lazard props. Whatever stock you can get on Allen Lazard, buy in now. I think this will probably be, God willing, if we're in the next round, I think this will be the last time you get it at this type of value for his game tomorrow night.
All right. So always remember this, people. If you are wagering tonight, always wager with your head, not your heart. If you have a problem, pick up that phone. There's an 800 number right there. Ask for help. Why? Because we care. We want you here today, tomorrow, next week, next month, through 2022 and beyond. Enjoy the night. Have some fun. Cash some tickets. From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from Riley Magnuson at our Mags TTL Sports and Talking the Line. We wish you all a blessed night. Enjoy yourselves. The weekend's here, and we will see you soon.